Awesome.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. And on behalf of the California Department of Education Special Education Division and the Supporting Inclusive Practices Project, we'd like to welcome you to the 6th in a series of 7 weekly webinars focused on secondary transition and presented by members of the California Transition Alliance leadership team. Today's presentation will address collaborative service delivery to support inclusion and employment to quality adult life. My name is Kevin Schaefer, Director of Program Support with the Supporting Inclusive Practices Project out of El Dorado County. Also with us is Kristen Brooks, Executive Director of the Supporting Inclusive Practices Project out of Riverside County, who we will hear from momentarily. Next slide. The SIP project provides support to LEAs across California to increase inclusive opportunities and improve outcomes for students with disabilities. For more information on the project and to stay current on events throughout the state, you can visit our website at www.sipinclusion.org or join us on Facebook and Twitter at SIPinclusion. A Padlet has also been developed for future access to recordings, resources, and registration that we'll address in a moment. We have included the registration link for you here, including a Spanish version for all webinars to share with staff and families. For your convenience, we've muted all participants today, but please utilize the chat box for questions and clarifications. Just be aware when using the chat that you are responding to all panelists and attendees. We'll do our best to address your questions. Just know that if we are unable to answer live, there will be a Q&A sheet created and posted on the Padlet for each webinar. Additionally, our team will be adding links to the chat box as we understand they are difficult to copy from the slides. For all presentations, we've created a Padlet of resources for you to access. Simply click on the resource you're interested in and download as directed. The first column contains overarching resources, while each subsequent column contains resources specific to each webinar topic. To access the Padlet, which will continue to be updated, you simply need the web address and feel free to share it with colleagues. Be sure to join us next Wednesday, June 3rd, for our final webinar on the legal mandates of transition. Before we begin, we have one polling question we'd like you to answer. How many of the previous webinars have you attended throughout this series? Have you attended 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 5? Click your answers and we'll show the results in just a second. All right, looks like we have a fairly high percentage of attendees who've attended all 5, 38%. So we're glad to hear that. And remember that if you haven't participated in all 5, you can access the resources, the recordings, and any of the materials from the Padlet. Next slide. We are grateful for this unique collaborative opportunity with Sue Sawyer and her team of experts. Please remember to take care of yourselves and those you love. I'll hand it over to Sue, who will introduce her team. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Kevin. Hi, I'm Sue Sawyer, and I'm the president of the California Transition Alliance. The Alliance is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our mission is to provide support and resources to youth and youth-serving professionals who support youth as they transition from high school to adulthood. All of the resources that we have are on the CaliforniaTransitionAlliance.org website. Next slide. We accomplish this mission through creating resources and tools, providing workshops, hosting statewide institutes, collaborating with state and national partners. We also lead 2 work groups. One of them is the high school diploma, and Richard Rosenberg leads the Social Security work group. And we play a leadership role on the California Community of Practice on Secondary Transition. I'd like to address your attention to the Basics book, which is the outline for this series of webinars. On the Basics book, you see the picture of a young child looking down a road, and you see the words hope, confidence, and trust. We believe that every child needs to have a sense of hope about their future in order to set post-secondary goals. If I don't have hope and optimism that there's something out there for me, why would I set a goal? Every child needs to have a sense of confidence in themselves. They need to have confidence that they have the skills and abilities to be able to do something they want to do. If I don't believe I have any skills or abilities, why would I set a goal? And with that goal setting process, when you lack confidence, is how would you develop, how would you decide to take the risk of setting a goal and beginning to believe in yourself? And finally, every child needs a sense of trust. They need trust that resources exist that will help them achieve their goals. That sometimes that trust is in adult allies. Sometimes that trust is in financial aid or transportation. Sometimes it's food, clothing, and shelter. But without all three of those elements, how can a child set a goal for their future? Next slide. Today, we're going to talk about collaborative service delivery and the support for inclusion and employment of quality adult life. Next slide. One of the documents that we value is from New Ways to Work. And what it talks about in this is all children need the same thing in order to prepare for their future. And so we're looking at developing one system, all youth, one system. And it includes academic achievement, career development, youth leadership, community services and support, and comprehensive youth development. Next slide. I would like to turn this over to Kristen, who's the Executive Director of the Riverside County Office of Education Supporting Inclusive Practices. Take it away.
Thank you, Sue.
Kristen.
How is everyone this afternoon? Great to see some of you back, and welcome to our new participants today. Just want to ground us in a little bit of language as we're talking about collaboration and hope and confidence and trust and all of those things that our students look to us for from the very beginning. Kids come to us with a range of abilities and disabilities and need to be educated in the general ed setting with appropriate supports and services in order to reach their full potential. And the placement of first choice and first option for all learners should be that general education setting. And Bitters really says it best around educational equity, that we're looking to eliminate barriers for students based on whatever identity they present with or identify with, and provide educational opportunities to meet the same rigorous standards. We're not doing a favor by allowing students to be in inclusive settings. It's really their right to be in the general education setting, and it's our duty as adults to work within the system and support those students, and sometimes flip the system to make sure that we're providing opportunities and options for all of our kids. So in our work with Kevin and Dawn and Janelle and Jessica, our whole team across the state, we've really been talking with different folks, not only what the research says, but what are people's opinions of what inclusion is and is not. And so we really like this slide to share with you that inclusion is about educational equity and access that I just talked about. And it's not dump and hope. It's not going to an IEP meeting and saying, you know what, okay, well, we'll try this general education thing, this inclusion thing, and just kind of hope for the best. It's really having that intentional plan and that design of the system to support the students. It's our students having a sense of community and belonging from the very beginning, from the first time that they enter our system all the way through post-secondary, that they belong and have that community from the get-go. And it's not being in a general education setting with a one-on-one untrained aide. Our paraprofessionals are incredible and they provide an amazing service. And we do them a disservice by not providing the training and supports that they need to be the best resource for our students. It's about educational benefit across time. It's not just mainstreaming. We know the research shows us that kids who are sort of just visiting a classroom don't have that community and sense of belonging. And their peers don't look to them as peers either. They're just visitors. It's independence and interdependence. And it's not line of sight inclusion where here's my classroom, but your classroom is over there. Or I see you on the playground across the way, but we're not included or educated and collaborating together. It really is about a philosophy that all kids can learn. It is not simply for compliance, and it's really about breaking down those silos between general education and special education, and between labor and management, and coming together and collaborating to support kids from day one. So some lessons that our team has learned in supporting inclusive practices and working with districts, counties and SELPAs, special education, local plan areas across the state, is the whole design of the system or redesign of the system really has to be an organic process for each school and community. There isn't a toolkit. And this isn't sort of how you do inclusion. It's very unique to the communities and to the context in which they work. It's that intentional design and envisioning what this should look like for that specific community, and really setting clear expectations and visions, and not just jumping to implementation in reaction to data, let's say. And our first adopters really have to be our school boards and our superintendents. If we don't have that leadership and support from the top, it's not going to be successful or sustainable or scalable with all the resources that may be needed. It's breaking down those silos and those self-imposed barriers that we've set up. Again, we're the adults designing the system, and so if it's not producing the outcomes that we want or intended for our students, it's up to us to reevaluate that system and self-reflect on if we're getting the outcomes that we want. And it's not kids being ready, it's adults and systems being ready, and again, self-reflecting. And really, as Michael Fullen calls it, reculturing, with relationships as the foundation for change. So just wanted to share some of those lessons with you and some things that we're seeing throughout California. And just so excited that we have so many presenters today to share that to the same end. Again, it starts from the very beginning of receiving students into our educational communities all the way through post-secondary and beyond. So I have the honor of introducing one of our own from Riverside County Office of Education, Alex Serrato. He's a business instructor with our COE, is going to share with us about special ed integration with career tech ed. So take it away, Alex.
Thank you for having me once again. So my name is again Alex Serrato. A little bit of my background. I have a BA in Workforce Education and Development, and I've been teaching for Riverside County Office of Education for the last 16 years. And since the first year I've been, I integrated special education into the classroom. And so I've been 5 years curriculum A through G writer, and 13 years writing with articulations through MSJC Junior College. I teach the entrepreneurship program at Hemet Unified. One of the main things that I touch on with the students is job search, work readiness, resumes, applications, etc. We also talk about college and careers. We do a college and careers project where the students have to decide what career they want to get into and how much college does it need, how much it's going to cost them. And then the big project, which it consists of the entire school year, is a business. We do produce a business plan, and the students also work on product development. How I build relationships with the students, I relate to students by sharing some personal stories of mine. I feel that if they know a little bit of my background, they see me more like a human being. So then I also let students reveal their interests and hobbies. I tend to, whenever I share my stories with them, they kind of feel more comfortable sharing their stories with me as well. So I use effective strategies in the classroom. And then I provide opportunities for students to connect new learning. I provide students to connect new learning to their personal experience and interest, hands-on experience, especially with our students that are in the special ed program. We know that the majority of them is hands-on that they learn better with. And then I show and teach, I model actually a lot of respect, and I expect that respect back towards me, and it's worked so far. So some of how I find their strengths, one of the biggest things that I look for is their strengths. So the first thing I do when I come in to the first days of the school, the first week probably of the school year, I read the student's IEP just to give me an idea where they're at. I converse with the case carrier. I have conversations with their case carrier to make sure to see if they have any feedback and give me those strengths that the students may have. And also, I converse with the students. I always make it a priority to sit down with those students and actually learn a little bit about them and see where they're at. So, and I also do as much parent involvement as possible. So if the student is struggling or if the student did something good in the classroom, I want to relate that to the parent. So learning strategies. I develop strength-based learning strategies. I identify student special strengths, and then I accommodate or modify tasks to match those students' strengths. How I do this, I partner the students with those stronger students that I have in the classroom. I also use a lot of visual presentation, and I do one-on-one communication as needed. As you see, a lot of it is me being involved with the student, making sure that the student feels comfortable and that they can ask questions, so they can that they can come and just, even if they just want to have a normal just a regular conversation with me, I make it comfortable for them to be able to do that. So some of the hands-ons, and this is my students actually working. So some of the stuff that they do is student store. We also run the student store on campus for hands-on experience. They do cash handling. They do also marketing design. They do application of skills per topic. They do again product development. We have a lot of, I'll get to that, but we have a lot of equipment, a lot of technology in the classroom. And then we do a lot of brainstorming business ideas, which every student has to come up with the company. So at the end of the school year, going back to the business plan, every student leaves with a business plan according to the business or topic or business that they decided they wanted to run, small business. So future careers, college exploration, we also get into that. I expose them to a variety of careers. I help students create an image of themselves as working adults. How do you see yourself working? Where do you see yourself, 5-10 years from now? What type of job or a career do you want to pursue? And how they see their future and what are the requirements to attain that future. So I do the personal goals, which is 5, 10, and 20 years, educational goals, employment goal, and lifestyle goals. Doing this allows students to be more mindful and reflective of their future. So this gives them kind of a, and one of the things that I use is when you're driving, when you're driving down the street or walking down the street or you're with your parents in the car and you see a person driving this automobile, this car that you really, really like, or you see a motorhome pulling toys or, do you wish you had that? And most of them say yes. Or they'll say, I would wish I could have a Lamborghini. And I said, well, let's talk about careers now. Let's talk about how you guys are going to obtain that car. How are you guys going to be able to purchase that car? So I get into a lot of storytelling. That way they can understand. And I use a lot of life skills in the classroom. So I partner students. I building relationship with other peers. So some of the students are pretty quiet. If you see the young lady right in the center, she's a very quiet young lady that it takes a lot for her to speak. And here we're at a CTE fair and she came with us, which that's a huge thing for her to do. So that's the reason that I put this image up, is because I wanted to share that if we work hard enough with them, if we make them feel special and part of the program, they will bring out that personality. So that's what I do. So paired with peers with leadership qualities. Partnering students, so communication is constant communication. I keep constant communication with the students. So every day when they come in, I make sure that I greet everybody, whether it's a handshake or I go to their desk after they start their lesson and I say 1 or 2 words to them. Communications, again, communication with the case carrier. very important because they have a lot of times they have a little bit more insight on the students because they've had the student maybe, because I teach mainly seniors, some juniors. So they've had them over 2 to 3 years in their classroom. So me keeping that constant communication with them helps me support the student better. So, and then communication with the parent, very important again, making sure that the parent is aware of where the student is, whether it's the student needs help or the student is doing something well in the classroom. And then communication with the counselor. If I see a student is struggling, I make sure to talk to the counselor as well. Hey, is this correct fit for the student? It's not just about me having numbers in the classroom. It's about, is this really where the student needs to be? Or even just telling the counselor, you know what? The student that you put in my classroom is doing really well. Sometimes they'll move them from one classroom to another. And then I do a lot of face-to-face, which is with the student or the case carrier, and also the counselor. I use email, I use Aries, Google Classroom, and then the IEP meetings to do all that communication. Equipment. This is the equipment that I have in the classroom. I have Apple computers. I probably have about 50. I didn't put them there, but I have about 50. We have laptops and we also have iMacs. We have cash registers, 30 of them, that the students can actually, each student has their personal. And then we have what we call a Muto printer or a banner printer, which we do banners. We can do them all the way from 4 feet all the way to 100 feet long. And then we also do the window clean, which is, or the window film that you saw the students putting on the windows, window screen, I'm sorry. We also have a poster printers. We have a couple poster printers where the students do all the marketing for whatever's going on in the school. We do the marketing for them, whether it's our CTE fair that we had, or we have the, sometimes we have mock interviews. We have a business summit. So whatever the school is going to have, we go through ASB and we do all the marketing for them. We also have we have cutters, which we do also stickers. So this will cut all the stickers to whatever shape they need to be. And we have 3D printers, interactive TV, and then iPads that are used. So they have a lot of technology support. The Apple computer, the programs that we have are Adobe Photoshop, iMovie, Adobe Dreamweaver, Adobe Animate, Adobe InDesign, and GarageBand. And those are something that really, this is only the things that I only posted, the things that they really enjoy and they really like to do, the students do. And we know right now students are very inclined to technology. So it doesn't matter where they're at a lot of times in their educational level, they're pretty good at technology. So the printer, with the printer, this is the printer. It's about 9 feet long. It looks, if you want to see it. And then we do posters, banners, we do business cards, we do window screens, flyers, stickers. And then with the 3D printer, we do the product development. So if a student comes up with for their business, they come with a product, then we print that product for them to see exactly what they created. So cash register, again, we're using the student store as a lab for the students. They learn how to do cashiering, balancing a register, change making, the count forward method, and then of course customer service, because we have the other students coming through and they have to act professional. So they have to, even though they're friends, they don't address them as friends, or by, they always have to address them as, or take care of them as a customer. So they have to use that customer service skill or soft skills. That's what we teach. So we also have a Promethean board that enhances the students' learning experience. It's interactive and access online resources. So the students, a lot of the times, we have ideas, they have to come and they have to generate those ideas on this interactive board. And so they write all the notes on it. You can write all notes on it and then it saves it for you. So they always have it with them. And if they want to pull out a video, they can pull out a video at the same time. They can open multiple screens and work and learn as they come up with ideas. So internships, I also run an internship class, which is entrepreneurship TNT. The businesses that the students attend are retail businesses, anywhere from Claire's to Route 21, Macy's, not Macy's, I'm sorry, Sears, and which is also already closed. So this will be the last year. The Marshalls, they do Juice It Up. So as long as it's a retail business or they have customer service within that business, the students can attend. And we also use the school districts where a lot of those students that are doing the poster and the print, the posters and banners and all the marketing flyers and so forth. Those students are, we also place them at the school district, and the school district will opens up the print shop and purchasing. We also do educational services. So some of the students will do filing. So they're learning. So those students, if a student has an interest in being a secretary, they can go and start learning how to file. And then we also use fast food. Work experience, the work experience, the students come with jobs. Some of the students come with jobs. Some of the students that were doing the internship program, sometimes within about 2 weeks to a month, they get hired. So those students acquire jobs through that internship. Students get paid through also, and this is only the students with IEPs, they get paid through special district funding. And even if they work just in the student store, they still get paid that 35 minutes that we work every day. So conclusion, my belief is students who feel respected, important, and part of a class or program will be more at ease to learn. And I strongly believe that. So any questions?
Alex, there's a question in the chat. Is your CTE program located on or off a high school campus? If on, very cool. If off, is transportation provided by the district?
The student has to provide transportation. And what was the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
Is it on or off a high school campus?
It's in a comprehensive high school.
Thank you.
That's great, Alex. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Richard, it's my turn.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Geraldine Elliott, and I'm the Workability Coordinator for Shasta County. And following Alex is going to be really tough. This is the first time I've done this in a really long time, so go easy on me with the questions. I'm usually working with students and they don't know to ask questions or they don't really question what I'm saying. So thanks in advance for your cooperation. Shasta County, for those of you that can't quite figure that out, we're up in Redding and we're sandwiched between Sacramento and the Oregon border. We have about 25 different school districts, and we have a lot of issues, especially since the Carr fire, with remote student populations and internet issues, limited public transportation. We have a large number of low-income families, and because the schools have such an inclusive practice, we find it difficult from a workability program to access the students individually. The more that they're mainstream, the harder it is to get them out of class to spend time with them developing their careers. Next. So the workability program, we have about 800 students with IEPs and about 20 different high schools and adult education programs that myself and the workability assistant support. We no longer have a TPP program in our area supporting the students with 504s. So as you can tell, we have a lot of students that need support in helping them transition from high school into work or college. So sometimes when we find our internal partners, their goals are the same to help the students. I found that when I first started this, that our inclusive practice didn't always include the students who didn't participate in their classes. So when we have our meetings, we invite all the students in school, but we also have a special invitation for those students with IEPs. So I've been working in the schools for only 4 years. I come from a business background. I'm a business major, business management major, and I was an HR manager for more than 25 years. So I spent a lot of times helping managers and employees um, develop their strengths and make good decisions for jobs, whether it was staying with the company or leaving the company. And so I think workability has that same responsibility to help these students identify their strengths and weaknesses and work on it. So when I started, I didn't really know what my resources were. So collaboration and breaking down silos was really, really important. So the first step was looking at my internal resources, like I said, and I actually received some pushback, which surprised me. And I was trying to figure out who my key stakeholders were, who was critical to be engaged in this, and how do I get my allotment of time without taking the kids away from their core classes. And so some of my conversations revolved around, well, your program is really wonderful, but my kids are already struggling, and it's really important that you find a way to reach them without pulling them out of class. So then I decided it was time to go to my external resources and find out what they thought. So next slide. So I went to my local business partners and wanted to develop clear job expectations. What do the employers need? What do they want? How can we develop these kids so that they're top of mind in the hiring process? So being it was my first year, I really wanted to help make the program more successful. And my very first stop at my very first business partner for a meet and greet, I went to the manager and they said, when are you people going to get your act together? 2 of you have already been here today. Stop wasting my time. Oh my gosh, I was shocked. So I started, asking more questions. I'm sorry, I'm really confused. Can you explain a little more about what you're talking about? And they explained that somebody else had already been there from workability. So going back and talking to my business partners, I realized that the Department of Rehab, the TPP program, Shasta College, our local placement, and myself had been to this business that day, wasting their time, and they couldn't understand the difference between the different businesses. So that was our fault. We didn't collaborate well. So I'm like, okay, so now what? So then I went to our local TPP program we had at the time. Again, mixed signals. Yeah, I really want to help. We're doing the same thing. But the pushback was, they're my kids. I have to meet my numbers. So when you start talking about, okay, I still don't understand what you're talking about because I come from the business world, not this world of I meet my numbers. Okay, well, we're a company and we meet our numbers together. And oh, by the way, aren't all the kids our kids, not just your kids or my kids? So I then went over to DOR in Shasta College, and it was really kind of a breath of fresh air. And I know not everybody has had that same experience with DOR. But I need to give them a shout out. They've been super helpful. So what they said to me was, we have resources, but we can't get connected with the kids. You have kids, we can help. So we began to brainstorm and map out a strategy for sharing resources because that just made a lot of sense. Next slide. So we put together a little chart that we could take to our employers, and we could look at what do we do the same and what do we do different, and how do we collaborate where we have an overlay. Because sometimes if you're going to place a student in a job placement, we'll place them for 50 hours. DOR can place them for 100 hours. But we didn't want kids double dipping at the same time, getting paid from both resources at the same employer. So we thought it was really important that together we work, we get our, have the kids sign waivers, the families, so that we can share information. So we decided to really start doing some brainstorming. How do we help? Where do we have gaps in our program so that kids don't fall through the gaps? And this chart seemed to really help our employers understand, yes, we do similar things, we are different, So you don't have to struggle with why we're all here. We're not the same people. Next slide. So then most of the workability programs and DOR programs across the state are collectively forming local partnership agreements, and we were no different. So we reached out to our local group that the DOR supports the counties, and we pulled together an official local partnership agreement. Next slide, please. So part of our program in continuity for our students, not just work, but also, you know, going out into college. We're really fortunate up here to have Shasta College, this community college. About 11,000 people go there, enroll there. But our closest public four-year university is Chico, and that's 80 miles away. So the challenge for that is, how do we get kids that can't get to school? How are they going to go there? So Shasta College has some wonderful programs that helped. They reached out to us. We have quarterly meetings that we get together and talk about the challenges, the movements. Shasta College has developed a lot of programs that support our kids, and we make referrals out there by either helping the kids fill out the paperwork or setting up a college visit so that they can go and check out the programs and have resource material delivered back to our students. The next slide, please. So on Shasta College, they have a Partners in Access to Education for the students. That's their PACE program that helps the kids with disabilities with all of the things that they need to support them in their classes. Whether it's training, whether it's computers or software, or just getting somebody to support them in the lab. Next slide, please. They also have a college to career program, and they have what they call their CALS classes. And the CALS classes are really certificate classes that will help students get things that are career and life success classes, like soft skills or teamwork or basic math or basic computer, to help them as they transition into college or into the workplace. They need to build those skills, and they can get a certificate that will help them with their resume. And so we have dual enrollment classes, so it makes it pretty easy for our kids. Next slide. So another resource up here that found that it was really challenging was, as we were reaching out, we noticed that other organizations were doing similar things with similar age students. So Reach Higher Shasta actually was started by the Department of Health and Human Services so that kids could have successful outcomes, not just through their health, but following them through and giving them the best chance to be successful. And so as you can see, they started building this resource page, and the next slide has more what people do, like DOR or O2 service, how they help them with employment. The next one. The Smart Business Center, Simpson, Shasta High School, Shasta Union High School District, Workability. So you can see that we have a lot of collaborative businesses now that get together in all forums to help the kids, so we're not stepping over each other or the kids aren't falling through the cracks. So the next one, please. So part of our partnership was to start early. So I brought DOR in at the beginning of the year to meet with the key stakeholders. That was to meet with administrators, teachers, and then we had a really successful meeting, and they bought into it. They didn't really know where to go, and since Workability doesn't support 504 students, DOR does, it made sense to bring them in. And so then we had a meeting at each school with all the students and invited them to participate for an introductory session and allow them to at least hear what is available for them. That way, when the kids start hearing it as freshmen, DOR takes over at 16 and adds that support. Next slide. So we continued to work together all year, and it was really, really successful. If there was paperwork that I received for DOR, I would pick it up at the school so the kids didn't lose it, deliver it to them. If they were at a school and had paperwork for me, they'd deliver it to me. We're fortunate enough that we work literally a couple miles away from each other, so we can help share that information. We're on the phone weekly comparing students, and we have a face-to-face meeting monthly where we sit down and share what's happening with the kids so that we successfully place a student in the right business based on their personality, based on where they are, looking at their assessments that's being done. And so we share new resources. We provide a platform for agencies to reach our students through Google Classroom. I email information directly to the parents. We arrange visits to employers for careers options to the various high schools. And then we make those referrals. Next slide, please. So we found that as we are doing this, you can go to the next slide, that's pretty similar. So our businesses have benefited from this, and they love the collaborative piece, because sometimes we'll go to the business together. DOR has benefited because they have a direct referral to, they have contact now with the students. We've had issues in the past where they struggled to get the students work permits, and I was able to work through that with them. I had students, I didn't know what services they needed, and they were able to make those referrals that I couldn't do. And so this year we're developing together job descriptions and a strategy for assessments, placement, and follow-up after the student is employed. And we update contacts and prospective employers. And if I go to a new employer and they don't have time to go, then I present both programs so the employer doesn't have their time wasted. Next slide. So I just want to share a success story. This was pre-COVID. So I was walking through a store and I had a student who had been involved in the TPP program that was ending. They were at college, they were trying to register, and they could not reach their contact. She was really upset that she wasn't gonna be able to go to school. So I was talking to her. I was able to connect her right then with my DOR counterpart. The next day, her funding came through that she was working with. So it had all been handled. I was told that everything worked out. And then the next time I went back to the store, she came running up to me and gave me a big hug and told me that she was able to complete her semester and she had received the funds timely, and she's now a full-time student going in the medical field. So it was such a great opportunity for her that had we not been collaborating, I don't think that she would have been able to get the resources that she needed. So I want to thank you all. And if you have any questions, I know we do collaborative work a little bit differently because we're so spread out, but breaking down the silos does nothing but support the students in their endeavors.
Thank you very much. That was exciting. Both Alex and Geraldine, congratulations. Thank you. That's huge. And it really ties to what Sue and the group, what we want. We want to show the power of collaboration. We want to show the power of collaboration starts at infant preschool, at birth, when that kid is delivered and they say, oh, this kid has Down syndrome, this kid has what a physical challenge. Collaboration has to start there. It's the medical world, the nursing world, the social work world, the family world, the grandmother world, the grandpa world, the friends, the neighbors. So it is a living process. And what we wanted to do today, and you guys have been perfect, is really just show the power of collaboration, teaming, partnerships. And I do want to just start, before I introduce our team, is that the collaboration, and both of you did a beautiful job of saying it has to start with the person. It has to start with the student. What is his or her dream? What is the dynamic? What is the difference with rural versus urban? What does that look like? And you know, that ties to our previous webinars, but we're real excited. So next slide, please. We want to share what we built in Orange County. And I have been blessed to be part of the team, and it really hit on a lot of things both of you said. We came together with a common theme. We then brought together the greater number of people, which you'll see in a minute, to really help us so we don't step on each other's toes when we go to Target or we go to the Holiday Inn and we get the line you shared. Oh, I just talked to someone. Those business people don't care that I'm ROP, I'm adult ed, I'm a disability oriented. They were just bombarded, and we really wanted to collaborate, partner, and build on that. Next slide, please. As we did that, we took the history, and I'm going to turn it over to Linda O'Neill, who will then turn it over to Arturo. But Linda was like our birth mother for the Orange County community, building our local partnership agreement that we had had many, many, many years previously with job development networks, et cetera. So Linda O'Neill, who worked in Irvine as I worked in Whittier Union, we now both work for San Diego State, the Interwork Institute. I also work Cal State LA and Chapman. So I'd love to introduce Linda O'Neill, a colleague of 20 years, we're young. And take it away, Linda, and then Arturo. Appreciate it, O'Neill.
All right, thank you so much. Happy to be here this afternoon. We have some really interesting things to share with you today. And I'm so happy our partner from the Regional Center of Orange County is here with us today. Arturo Caceres is the Director of Employment at the Regional Center, and he has done some awesome things as I have been able to work with him for several years now. And he's going to start us off with what we're doing in Orange County. Arturo.
Well, Linda, I haven't done anything. It's all of our partners that have done all the work. We're very fortunate in Orange County to have so many great partners. And I know when I go to different parts of the state and I meet with other organizations, other agencies, they're always asking, what's going on in Orange County? How do you guys have so many people employed? Well, it's just a testament to our relationships, our partnerships with everyone in the community. And like Richard said, it does go back all the way to childhood, all the way to birth. That's where things begin. And it's important to keep that going throughout lifetime. But here, what we're talking about is the local partnership agreement. In the previous slide, what you saw is our logo that was developed. Isn't that interesting? We were the first local partnership agreement that was approved and posted on the California Health and Human Services Agency website. We were very excited about that. And I think the reason why we were the first is because we had already been doing so much in regards to employment before this blueprint came out and before we were asked to put together local partnership agreements. There was just so much going on between the regional center, between school districts, and also the Department of Rehabilitation. And we had other partners as well. We had always been seeing each other at different meetings separately. There might have been some silos, unfortunately. But what really brought everything together was this call for local partnership agreements. And for those who are not familiar, this was required via the CIE blueprint, basically asking the core partners, again, identifying school districts, Department of Rehab offices, and regional centers who fall under the Department of Developmental Services to work together and develop what have been called local partnership agreements that will outline how we will be working together to make better, to provide better opportunities, better training, better preparation to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Next slide, please. So again, the whole purpose is just bringing people together. And although they did identify quote unquote core partners, as we developed our local partnership agreement, and what we knew even before that is that there are more partners out there than those three agencies that had been identified in this blueprint and through the local partnership agreement. But I can't remember on whose presentation it was, but it said something about they're taking a village to do this, and that's absolutely true. It's collaboration. throughout the community, not just these three core partners. But this is what it's all about, is making things better for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities so that they can have the same opportunities as their peers who do not have disabilities. Next slide, please.
All right. Thanks, Arturo. I'll tell you a little bit about how we started. We actually got started with our CIE Blueprint Committee in Orange County it's almost 3 years, in July. And we started with about 15 people who were really excited about this. And we had our first meeting and it absolutely took off from that point. Everybody was really excited about what we were going to accomplish. So next slide, please. We decided to identify our purpose to make sure we were all on the same page. And I know there are some LPAs in California where their focus is just the individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In our LPA, we decided we wanted to focus on all students with all different kinds of disabilities. And we felt if we did that, we could identify a lot more services and supports that would be beneficial for individuals with IDD. So it benefited us in that respect. We also identified the age range as students 14 years old, and we wanted to go all the way up through 30 years plus and include adults as well. And we also wanted to take a look at at-risk populations. So we have a wide range of individuals that we've targeted for our OCLPA purpose. Next slide, please. These are the types of membership we have currently. We have people from our local education agencies, and our Workability One program is very involved in this partnership agreement. They're very supportive of all the activities that happen there. They take a leadership role, and we're happy to have them. We have career pathway program representation, post-secondary education, including community colleges and universities. We have many of our adult service providers in Orange County. We have our workforce development programs, and that for us was a challenge. We had difficulty getting the one-stop folks involved in the beginning, but thankfully, you know, with a lot of help from everyone that's on these committees, they're now involved and happy to come to the meetings and support what we're doing. We have disability resource agencies, disability advocacy organizations, and also representatives from foundations and nonprofits. Next slide.
The chart may be overwhelming, but it really was our first step to say, who's here? What does that look like? And just to share a little bit, we're not going to go through all the details. We have 100% participation from all of our workability sites in Orange County. We have the community college system. We have 2 Department of Rehab offices because South Orange County goes to the San Diego office. The Orange County area does the Orange County San Gabe office. So we've got representatives from both of them. We've got parents, we've got families, we've got consumers. And if you look at the very bottom, we wanted to coordinate so we don't step on each other's toes and we know what each is doing. We have the workforce development programs, which ran the gamut, and it's great. What is really cool is it's a living process of collaboration, partnership, and enthusiasm. If you look at the next slide, we really have a tempo. This is our room with the LPA group. And as Linda and Arturo said, we also have EDD in there. We have the workforce centers. It's been fantastic. And Linda can talk about the agendas a little bit, but along the lines of, next slide, please. How do we really build the partnerships? How do we make it happen? Next slide. We've had 2 sets of partnerships. Linda and I, a number of years ago, had 2. We had an LA County merged with Orange County and the business partners. Now we've separated. We have LA County, Orange County, and we look at coming together for a tight hour because we don't want to take a lot of time. We may highlight a student or a success story, and then we really want to delve into what do the employers need? What does that look like? How can we meet that need? And we must admit, we have not gone virtual yet on this. We're trying to figure out how to make a relationship with the business partners as we do it. But along the lines, and Geraldine, you really set us in motion. Linda, you want to share the data sheets and what we're looking at for documenting the business partners?
Sure. Geraldine, again, thank you so much for bringing up the issue with regards to making sure we were coordinating and using our business partnership resources efficiently and effectively, because we have the same problem in Orange County and you think we could do better. But this is one thing that our group decided we wanted to tackle, how we could better work with our business partners. And we wanted to see how we could share the business partnerships across all of the organizations that are working with them, including school districts, community colleges, universities, adult service providers, and so forth. So we came up with this model, and it's not working perfectly yet. So we're still giving it a really good try. We think it's going to work, but basically what happens is each organization, no matter where they come from, submits 2 of their partners, and we are organizing them by career pathways. And if you go to the next slide, please. We are identifying what kind of work-based learning opportunities these particular business partners are willing to share with all of us. And in the beginning, when we first started trying to put this together, there was a lot of reluctance on everybody's part, because they were thinking, oh my gosh, if I give you the name of my business partner, then everybody in the county is going to be running to the business partner. So we all made an agreement that if the business partners that are on here, if someone wants to contact them, they need to call the contact person first. So you can see on the right side of the chart is the contact name. So they would call that person, and that person would give them an entree into the business if it was appropriate at the time. Next slide. And so we're keeping track of our business partner contact people so that everyone can get a hold of each other. When you have a group this big, we like to make sure we put together directories and contact lists and things like that. I think at this point on our OCLPA, we have almost 100 participants, and we get people calling us all the time that say they want to join. So we're excited about that, but trying to coordinate and organize a bunch of people is a challenge. And so we continue to work on that as a team, and it's working really well. We don't have that many on this list yet, so you can see this is one of the very first elementary steps in trying to coordinate. And Orange County is definitely not anywhere near the size of Shasta County. So we're just starting. We're doing the best we can do, and we thought we'd share that with you. All right, next slide, please. This is another project that we did. Actually, this was our very first project. We decided as we were getting together that we were all using different terminology, and people were getting confused about some words that people were using in conversation. And so we decided to put together a glossary, and on the next sheet, next slide, is an acronym list. And so whenever people were talking, it helped us all to better learn what each other was talking about and to be able to use it as a resource to better understand what was happening between and among the agencies. So it's been very, very beneficial.
One of the huge issues has been labeling, because the Department of Rehab's definition of mild or severe is different than the school district's, which is different than the regional center. So the LPA and the collaboration and partnership has really helped us all have a common language. Thank you, Linda.
All right. So the next thing we decided is that we would meet every month. We thought maybe in the beginning people would want to meet maybe 4 times a year. But as we got into identifying different projects that we wanted to work on, everyone agreed, let's meet every month. And so before COVID, we were meeting in person one month, and then we would do a conference call the next month. And that seemed to work for people because it helped with regards to transportation and trying to, get out of their busy mornings if we did the conference call. But once COVID started, we decided to go to Zoom meetings. And those have been really fun. Everyone really likes the opportunity to see each other, see each other's face. And it's kind of like a big friendship group now. We all know how to get a hold of each other if we have a problem, ask a lot of questions. And so this is just 2 pages of the agenda I just wanted to share with you. And we decide what we're going to talk about prior to the meeting. So I send out notices and say, ask, does anyone have any topics they want to talk about in the Zoom meeting? And you can see that different people have volunteered to talk about different things for the meeting. And I think if you go to the next slide, there's 2 more of the pages. So yeah, so we have, nope, back one, please. Yeah, thank you. We talk about the educational opportunities, and there's so many great things happening at the community colleges that we want all of our partners to hear about. We share resources with one another. Each individual who turns in a resource has an opportunity to talk about it on the Zoom meeting, and then we also share webinars. So
Linda, you
it's
want to
been
talk
really
about
helpful.
Google Drive for a minute, because you've done such a great job with that in many of our projects.
Oh, okay, thanks. Well, if you go back one, please. At the top of the agenda, we always put an address for our Google Drive. And so as people in the community who want to talk about these things send me resources, we put them on the Google Drive so everybody can download them. And it's been really helpful for people because there's a lot of things we don't know about that are going on in the county that would be beneficial for our families, for our teaching staff, for any service providers out there. So the Google Drive has been really popular, and people are excited to be able to get on there and download flyers and things that they might need.
In addition, we created, Linda helped us, a virtual update. So as we all went to virtual, we were getting input from national organizations, local, state, and Linda, in her wonderful wisdom, produced a document that we could look and check virtual resources that are out there for our students, and it's been great. Thank you. Sorry about that. Go for it.
No problem. All right. Before Arturo starts, I just wanted, there's a couple other things we've been working on. We're building a website through Chapman University to try to share all these resources a little more efficiently. We've heard from families that they really want a website where they can go to get transition information. And, you know, we want to link to other organizations. We'll link to, obviously, the California Transition Alliance, CDE, and some other places where we know people can get a lot of really good information. And we also want to put our virtual resources on the website. All right, Arturo.
All right. So I'm sure most of you know already, several years ago, there were 3 states that were sued by the Department of Justice over providing opportunities for, it was still employment or paid activity, but it was segregated. It's not exactly what people want to see. Those segregated, there were sheltered workshops, were developed many, many years ago, before my time. And there was good intention there. The whole idea was to provide individuals with opportunities to learn skills that can then be transferred outside and in integrated work settings. That didn't always work for everyone, but these sites continue to exist, and they still do exist throughout the United States, and also some still here in California. However, because of all of this, there's been a great advocacy for employment first, and what that means. It did start at the federal level, and it has spread to individual states. As you can see here, the data that's pulled from ABC's website, 49 states with some type of employment first effort, and then 19 states, California being one of them, that has an actual state policy. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this is where it started at the federal level with the ODEP. And this is what really triggered everything at the state level. We wanted to make sure that individuals who have disabilities have opportunities to work in settings with their peers who do not have disabilities, also earning competitive wages, basically just having the same experience as a person without a disability. So again, this started at the federal level, and then we started to see different things happening in different states. But I think California has been at the forefront of this, because one of the reasons, of course, is we have the regional center system in California. I'm not just saying that because I work for a regional center, but as you might know, other states don't have regional centers. They just rely on federal dollars, which don't always meet the needs of the individuals that are served in those states. In fact, there are many waiting lists, unfortunately, for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who don't always get the services that they need. Some persons having to wait up to 10, 12 years to receive services, but that's not happening here in California because we have the regional center system and the state dollars that support those services. Next slide, please. So again, as part of the regional center system and the funding that's provided for this employment first push, we have two programs that have been developed. We have the state that gave the regional center system $20 million to implement these two programs, the paid internship program and the CIE incentive payment program. So the paid internship program is a great idea. It allows for individuals who are adults, yeah, that's the one thing, you have to be an adult, who are either being supported by a school district or an adult program who have exited school district services, to receive up to $10,400 in a year for their internship work that is done out in the community in an integrated setting. There are two purposes behind this. One is for the individual to develop skills needed and experience needed that will allow them to move into that internship turning into employment. And then there's also the opportunity for an individual just to learn the skills and gain experience. They might not be sure what they want to do. I mean, if we think back to when we were young adults, for me, that was like 2 years ago, you might not have been very sure of what you wanted to do when you quote unquote grow up. You know, there are still persons that I know, at least in my family, that they're in their 30s and they don't know what they want to do yet. So they're still out there. This provides an opportunity for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to kind of test things out and to try to figure out what it is that they might be interested in doing for work. I mean, if you think about it, just like with food, you don't know you like something until you try it. So this provides that opportunity. With the CIE incentive payments program, this is an incentive program for the vendors. Any service providers that support individuals with finding employment, of course, has to be CIE, they will be rewarded with up to 3 payments. If an individual maintains that job for 30 consecutive days, the vendor could receive $1,000. If that individual maintains the job for 6 consecutive months, the vendor can receive another check for $1,200. $1,200.
There's an extra zero. Sorry.
One too many. One too many. Yeah, that threw me off. One too many.
Sorry,
zeros. I'm like, wait a minute. Who's writing this check here? It's $1,250. And if the vendor supports someone who has maintained their job for 12 consecutive months, that vendor could get another check for $1,500. So 3 separate checks. There is talk, though, that additional incentive payments might be added later on in the future, but we'll have to wait and see with this whole budget situation that we're looking at starting in July. Next slide, please. So this shows how over the past 3.5 fiscal years, money has been spent on these programs. First, we have the CIE incentive payments program here, and it has the regional centers listed on the left column, far left column, in alphabetical order. This isn't by who has provided more incentive payments. It's just clearly in alphabetical order. So you can see starting in fiscal year 16-17, there wasn't so much going on in the state, but throughout the life of this program, the funding provided for this, it has grown. But if you look at the bottom, at the totals, again, as I mentioned, this was $20 million set apart for the 2 programs. We're nowhere near where we should be, or the max that's available for the programs. And you'll see in the next slide the dollars that have been spent on paid internship programs. But we have seen growth, so that's a good thing. Unfortunately, with what's happening right now with COVID-19, we do expect to see this being further affected, unfortunately. But what we are glad to hear so far, at least, is that these 2 programs, the funding for the 2 programs, they're not on the chopping block. So the money should continue to be available for individuals, which is great because we see there that the state realizes this is very important to the persons that we support. We can go to the next slide, please. So here you see the breakdown in expenditures for the paid internship program. Again, on the far left column, regional centers, then the 4 fiscal years that are included. The current fiscal year, 1920, that's only up to November of 2019, same for the previous slide. So it's not the full fiscal year, which we're getting close to completing here, but at least it gives you an idea of how much money has been reimbursed. It's based on expenditures. It's not based on authorizations. So there's a difference. A regional center might write a contract to allow for these dollars to be spent, but if on the other end that's not being billed, it's not going to be reflected in this data. So it's very important to know that. But again, if you look at the bottom, the totals, we're nowhere near the dollar amounts where we should be, where we want to be. And I focus more on this paid internship program, especially when we're presenting this information with school districts and other related agencies, because I feel that this program isn't being utilized as much as it should be with adults who are still being served by school districts. And remember, this can be for experience only, and there's a lot of that should be going on with students who are still with school districts. So please keep this in mind that, of course, the individual has to be enrolled with a regional center or registered with a regional center to receive services, but this is just for the wages. This is not for the support. Support can be provided by the school district. If a person needs support, there might be something to discuss with the regional center if the school district can't provide the support. However, that should not affect the dollars that can be paid to individuals who are working as interns. So we do want to continue to use these dollars because we do realize that this leads to competitive integrated employment for many individuals.
And
Next
as
slide,
you can
please.
see, for each of your regional centers, we need to increase it. So be an advocate, make it happen, et cetera. Next slide, please. I think Linda. Muted. Thank you.
Sorry, here I go. I wanted to share
Thanks,
with
Arturo.
you another project that we're working on. It's called our OCLPA Universal Referral Process. Next slide, please. One of the things we identified as a problem in our county was the fact that we had maybe several different organizations working with one individual student or adult, and we weren't doing a really good job of coordinating those services and resources. And so we wanted to figure out a way to provide better communication among the staff who are working with that one individual and the family members. And so we came up with this tool that I'll share with you. You can see this is just the initial referral tool. It shows that maybe the person might be working with Department of Rehab, the regional center, a secondary setting. It could be a community college, could be a school district with a one-stop center, maybe a service provider, or any other agency. It could be transportation or anything else that might be of benefit in terms of getting a student into work training or a job. So we got together, and trying to get everybody to get on the same page is not as easy as it might seem. And so we've been working on this probably about a year, and COVID kind of interrupted where we were in the process, but we've all decided we're going to start working on it again in the fall. But the idea is to know what each organization is going to be doing and how we will provide it. Next slide. This is the sheet we're using to identify the specific services. So we're going to look at the individual student needs, what services they need, which agency will provide it, who the contact person will be, what the timeline, estimated completion date is, and also to monitor our expected outcomes. And with the people who have been piloting it, they say it's a great opportunity to make sure we're delivering comprehensive and quality services. We're getting good review. We're getting ready to do a survey out of Chapman to survey the parents, family members, students, and the service providers on how this process actually works. And hopefully we'll get some good results. And what I'm hearing from the service providers and the educators is they really like the process, and they think it's going to help to make sure that each individual student who needs this kind of coordination will be able to get it. All right, we'll have Arturo come back and talk about our project search programs.
All right, so another tool in our toolbox here in Orange County is the project search programs that we have. We have 3 of those right now. The original one, the first one, was developed at Children's Hospital, and later tonight we're actually celebrating graduation via Zoom, of course. for the cohort that has just completed their program there. We also have a program that was developed as an autism only or an autism enhancement program at UCI Medical Center. And our third, our latest and greatest, is the Kaiser Permanente in Anaheim program. Next slide, please. And like with just about everything that we do, it takes a village. So here listed with the logos are the partners for our 3 project search programs. Regional Center does fund for the support provided on site. These are adult service programs. And our partner for adult services here is Goodwill of Orange County. Then we also have to have an educational partner, these being adult programs. We have to have post-secondary education partners. And so for 2 of the sites, we have Santiago Canyon College. And for our 3rd site at Kaiser Permanente, we have North Orange Continuing Education. And of course, as usual, for job development following the completion of the program, we have Department of Rehab who assists with funding. And there are some other miscellaneous things that they can assist with. We have some participation from the Center for Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorders. They assist us with what we're doing over at the UCI project. Next for Autism, that's also another agency that has been helpful to us. Grandparent Autism Network are one of our steering committee partners for CHALK. Chapman University does a lot with us. And Bear Paint, that one's kind of random. You're probably wondering, Bear Paint, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it takes a lot of money. It takes near $20,000 just to get one of these programs going. And when we were just about ready to go with Kaiser, and we realized, well, where are we going to get this $20,000 from? Well, Bear Paint stepped up. So that's very important. And they want to be involved. They want to know what's going on. They want to know how else they can help. So we always include them as one of our partners because you can't really do this without funding. Next slide, please. Here's another slide that we like to share with many is where do people work? Once they've completed their training, which is a 10 to 11 month program, we want to make sure that they end up working in places where they would not have worked had they not gone through this program. And as you can see here, there are so many different employers throughout the county where individuals end up in jobs, positions that are beyond an entry-level job. So we just like to share this information. It just shows how great and how much of a variety that there is when it comes to employment opportunities following the completion of a project search program. Next slide, please.
All right. I'd like to introduce one of our partners on the OCLPA, Chrissy Gascon. She is the Executive Director of the California Adult Ed Program. And I know she has a new title now, so maybe Chrissy can tell you about that when she gets on. So welcome, Chrissy. Thanks for being on with us.
Next slide.
Thank you so much. New title will start July 1st, but it'll be Interim Dean. And I have to say, I'm loving this webinar, and mostly because of how much everyone is speaking of collaboration. The California Adult Education Program, in its inception 6 years ago, we were supposed to go out and look for gaps in the community colleges and in the adult education world in who we were not serving or who we could serve better. And at Santiago Canyon College, we took a look and we were not serving adults with disabilities at all. We didn't have a program and we didn't have anything that was really educational. We had our DSPS office, but we didn't have any programs that were promoting competitive integrative employment or anything of that nature. So we got to work really fast and to start a program. And one of the best things that came out of this were the collaborations. We could not have done it without the collaboration. I remember one of the first people that called me was Linda O'Neill and a project search. And it was one of the first projects we did with our adults with disabilities program was starting up at CHALK 5 years ago. We hired a full-time coordinator. She's an assistant professor. She's now tenured. And we really wanted to focus on young adults and adults and what happens after they're done with their transition programs, but they're not quite ready to go into the workforce, or they're not quite ready to go into college. And we've built our programs kind of based on that and leading to careers in these areas. And I look at the different sectors and the ones within Orange County even, it's great with Project Search in hospitals because just in our college district area, we have, I think, 4 hospitals. We're so close to industries that, you know, serve hospitality and, you know, the business and finance sector. And what I see as our students coming through this, it's not just us. We now have Department of Rehabilitation on our campus, and we have this great collaboration. He can refer students into our program, and we can refer students to him for occupation or, you know, if they want more training. And we might want to go to the next slide. Let me see. Okay, so through the California Adult Education Program, these are some of the areas that we really touch on, and earning a high school diploma or a high school equivalency certificate, learning to speak English as a second language. ESL is very big in Santa Ana and Orange. Learn how to become a US citizen. And then the bottom 2 really have been where we've really kind of solidified this, and it's short-term career technical skills and learning workforce preparation skills. So even those soft skills that might lead a student into career technical skills. Okay, and what we did is we developed programs for adults with disabilities, and we set them up as certificate programs. And each of them has a little bit of a different spin. So we have employment readiness, basic employment skills, office leadership skills, office technology, effective communication skills, transition to higher learning. And that kind of is that bridge from transition to college, learning that new scheduling, technical skills for higher learning. All of our courses are set up like college courses. So you're going to get a Monday, Wednesday schedule, a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. It's working within what's expected next. And I think that it's really worked well. And like I said, without the partners, I'm thinking of all the partners, Regional Center, you know, Project Search, the DOR, Goodwill. They haven't just helped us in forming our program. They really have kind of given us a basis of what we needed. They would come back and talk to us and say, we really need a class in this, and we'd be able to create it. And I think that that has really helped in knowing what is needed to lead these students into further education or integrated employment. And one of the other areas that we've started is certificate programs to support adults with disabilities. So these certificate programs are for people to understand and support employees with disabilities. So a company might choose to have their employers learn a little bit more about how they could support coworkers. And one of the other things is we have had a lot more students with disabilities come into our community college on the credit and the non-credit side. And teachers at the community college, it's not the same. They don't have teaching credentials, and they haven't done any special education training, and they were at a loss of what to do. And so we've developed a new certificate. We haven't offered it yet, but it's working with students with disabilities. And it's really kind of, where do I find resources? Who do I talk to? How do I, you know, do I recommend my student to go to DSPS? Do they have to ask me? How do I get the information to them? Because once the student gets to a community college, it is a little bit harder. There is no more parent input. You know, you have to treat them as an adult because they are adults. And so a lot of that has really been, you know, things that we've had to work with and kind of overcome. But yeah, that's our program.
Thank you very much. I was just going to share that Linda and I have also had an impact on the Eastern Los Angeles Regional Center LPA, which is also more diverse and not just for IDD. We also have had an impact with the San Gabriel Valley Regional Center. What's exciting about San Gabe is that we are now doing a new Project Search with Baldwin Park. So we use kind of the model that Linda created, and we're expanding it to others in our community. Next slide. This is just a living story of collaboration and partnership. Some of you, when I've talked about person-centered thinking, Carla is one of my friends and I've supported since she was in elementary school, and they did inclusion. And in elementary school, for the inclusion for Carla, they built a cage, and we really have the picture. Carla's like 34, so just go back to elementary. They wanted to protect her from the other kids, and that was really hard for the family, her brother, etc. So my wife and I have worked with this family forever. She now has her own business. She has the Carla Movie Restaurant. She does pop-ups with movies and or stars from Long Beach who have finished and do video production. Carla has taken classes at the community college in the Long Beach area, also at Cal State Long Beach and Chapman. She really wanted to move in drama. How does collaboration work? One of our workability directors from Huntington Beach, Kurt Cosbad, said, because Hilda, the mother, is on our team, said, I've got this great connection. They're really open, they're welcoming, and it's really been a win-win, even to the point where she passed her class virtually as a yay, this can all happen. Next slide and last slide. I just want to thank all the presenters, Alex, Geraldine, Chrissy, Linda, Arturo. It's been great. We've really walked the talk and do it. I would now like to turn it over to either Sue or Kevin, but thank you everyone for staying with us and the engagement.
Thank you so much to all the presenters for sharing your experiences and your expertise. Such great information once again. We look forward to seeing you next week for our final webinar, the legal mandates of secondary transition. And please make sure you fill out the survey. We value your comments and your thoughts, and use that information for ways to improve these webinars. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.